Thank you everyone for joining. I'm super excited to have this. It's the first time doing this kind of open demo. I know a lot of people have seen the product, some haven't seen the product, some are interested in seeing more of it. So I'm going to take you through Amalgam and what it can do. And just like kind of rough agenda is going to be, I'll take you through a little bit of a few pages here to just kind of understand the high level of Amalgam and kind of what it does. I'll show you our application where you can integrate systems, and then I'll show you the real meat potatoes of the product around getting within Excel and Google Sheets and those types of things. So without further ado, we can get started. So a little history lesson here in my intro to Amalgam. This is a picture of me in my first office in my previous company, Calculate. So I started a company, Calculate, in 2017, and we did outsourced finance and accounting work. And during that time, we really realized that we needed to reduce and wanted to reduce the time it took to close the books and really jockey data around. And so we started writing some scripts with the help of one of our colleagues, Ben, and began doing some automations in kind of the 2020 timeline. And that kept growing, that product kept growing, and it worked really well for us. And we realized, hey, this is something that works so well for us, maybe other people want to buy it. And in 22, we spun out Amalgam into its own brand. I continued to run Calculate, sold that business in 2023, and then rejoined Amalgam last year and really kind of sit front of house. So like customer experience, marketing, sales, doing demos and things like that is where I spend my time. And that's kind of just a brief like history lesson of Amalgam and how we kind of got here. In terms of like how we think about Amalgam kind of product philosophy, I think really focused on improving the day-to-day tasks. So enhancing the core work. There's a lot of great dashboarding and reporting tools out there, but as many of you know, that's kind of the like last 10% of your work. The real important 90% of the work is getting the books in order, getting the financials in place so that you can go and do those dashboards and reports. I think also for us, minimizing the learning curve. So we built a tool in Excel. It requires really no kind of onboarding, learning. Anyone can pick it up, as you'll see. It's really smooth and simple to understand. So really simple product. And then also just maximizing service. Many of you are in service. I came from services, and that's really important to me. So really thinking about this as just not just a product that you can use, but also a service that comes along with it. I'm no graphic designer, so bear with me, but this is kind of just like a example of how Amalgam would work for you. And so just really connecting the app, downloading data sets, and being able to upload those into various systems. So my example here would be like CPG sales. So we've got like Stripe, Shopify, Amazon, things like that. I'm able to connect to those systems and then pull them right into tabs into my workbook. And then I can create another tab that's connected with my general ledger system where I might be able to pull that information and create journal entries off it and load those journal entries right into QuickBooks or NetSuite or Sage or some other product that we might be connected to. My visual representation is this on the left. So if you're just doing this kind of the traditional manual way, you can see all these dots represent a step. So I'm opening my schedule, I'm logging into Shopify, I'm navigating to that report, I'm adding dates, I'm running it, I'm getting a CSV, I'm copying that data. All of these grayed out ones are what you can skip using Amalgam. So you can see here we're going from whatever, 12.5 sort of steps to just 6 steps that you're able to cut down. And those little things over time, obviously, or over a month, saves a lot of time. And we're finding, kind of the average user is able to save, let's say, 20 hours a month by cutting out downloading that CSV or logging into that system. And so you extrapolate that over your team, there's probably a lot of savings you can think about. And then my last of my intro slides here is just around kind of the most valuable applications that we see. I kind of see these 3 big buckets. One is monthly closes. So having standard schedules, being able to pull data in, being able to upload, edit, delete those data, and you're able to reduce kind of close time for your work or your client's work. Financial reporting is great too. So connecting and pulling in GLs and P&Ls and balance sheets and those types of things come super fluidly. And then lastly is just rebuilding books, which is actually my kind of favorite version. So let's say you're taking a set of books from cash to accrual, or you need to reclassify all the accounts for a particular business. That kind of work gets cut in half, essentially. So I think that's a huge savings for those kind of big chunky projects. I didn't sort of mention it, but like happy to field any questions or things like that. There is a chat functionality here. We've got Megan asked a question. I see Rachel, you've asked a question. You've got something you're doing here, Rachel, around doing some historical checks. So feel free to kind of jump in with questions or say something out loud. No worries at all. And thanks for the shout out there, Rachel. So the meat and potatoes of Amalgam is in Excel and Google Sheets. But I just want to show you and help you understand like how you connect your systems. So this is our Amalgam app, which is just app.amalgam.me. And I have my sort of dashboard, if you will, of all my integrations. So I've got 18 QuickBooks, I've got one Xero account, I've got 4 Shopifys. I can click on those and see who the businesses that I have or clients or different instances. But creating a new integration is super easy. I just hit new integration. And then here, I can either click on my QuickBooks, or if I'm going to search for Stripe, you can see how it searches. And then you would just click into QuickBooks, and then I'll redirect myself. And anyone who's done any integration with QuickBooks is going to see that. I'm already logged into this personal account, or I use a different ID. And you get the idea. You put in your login information, and within a couple clicks, it connects you to, in this case, QuickBooks. And that's sort of the beauty of Amalgam, is its simplicity. You're just using your own credentials to connect with those different systems. And we don't store any data. We don't have a separate database. So in terms of like your client's data being exposed, it's like we don't even have that. It's really just your machine going and grabbing that data and putting it into your worksheet or your Google Sheet or something like that. We also have a SOC 2 audit. We've got multiple top 20 accounting CPA firms are our customers. So obviously we've been through really rigorous IT processes for those and have passed those pretty effectively to get those guys as customers. So adding new integrations, like I mentioned, I can also rename an integration. Let's say ABC widgets. I don't want the ink. I can just get rid of that. Now that's been updated. Good for organizing when you have multiple clients across things. If I want to share, the simple way is to hit share here. Or with an upgraded account, I can use this groups functionality. So I've got all my groups here. And then if I want to add new users, so it's Ben and me. If I want to add a new user, I would just add one here. Or if I want to add in new integrations, I can hit plus, see all my current integrations, all these Amalgam things. If I hit plus, I can just pick from any of my integrations there to just add them to my group. So easy to manage groups and manage access. And you can also allow for access of like read-only for certain systems. So if I don't want anyone uploading new journal entries or something like that to QuickBooks, I can do that as well. Cool. I will take a quick breath as we switch over to Excel. If any questions, again, just fire away. Open demo. But I've got my Excel version open here. This is going to work the same in Excel or Google Sheets. I've got the toolkit open, but once you add it in for the first time, just hit the button here, and then it'll force you to sign in, which we like, right? We want that security. And now we'll type my password in. Nothing more. No more pressure than typing in your password wrong in front of people, right? Let's see if I can do it second time as a charm. Oh, we did it. Great. And then you can see on the right-hand side, I've got my sort of front page, some resources down here, but really, am I going to download? Am I going to do a two-way sync? Let's start with a download. Let's maybe do a P&L out of QuickBooks. So these are all the systems I have connections to. I showed you I had 18 QuickBooks accounts. Those are here. I can click here. And now I can select my report. If I wanted multiple reports, I can click multiple things, but I will just click down here on my standard profit and loss. I'll hit choose, and then these are my clients. I'll hit ABC widgets, and then I will hit submit there. And sometimes it takes a second. I think I'm sharing, it takes a little longer. But then you'll see a pretty standard kind of approach. We've got the gray cells over here to the left, and then I have my sort of different settings, as we call them. So let's just run maybe a year-to-date P&L. We'll put in the dates. So that will be for the beginning of the year. And then my end date, I can type it in, right? 12/31/2025. But this is also Excel. I can do formulas. Maybe I want the today formula. I can do that. Or maybe something I want to reference another cell. It could be another tab too, but let's use the end of month formula. We can do through October. There we go. And I can select the method. I'll do an accrual basis, and then what's my period? Let's do months, and then other things too. If I want to filter for a class or a particular vendor, things to that nature, I can do. But it's simple as doing that and then hitting run report. And it'll pull the data right down for us. And it's Excel, right? So I can format this however I want. Let's get a little formatting going here. We'll get rid of those. And now I've got my P&L just like that. And so this works repeatably. If I save this file, open it up, it's going to look exactly the same. And I can say, well, actually, I didn't want months. I wanted classes. I can select classes, hit run report. Boom, I'm not going into QuickBooks and jockeying with CSVs. It goes right into my my Excel here. So just a simple example of pulling a P&L report. I think I'll pull another report, maybe a Stripe report, something like that. But like, let's also use that as a baseline to actually write data into QuickBooks. So I'm downloading data here. Let's go ahead and write some data. So let's start by pulling the data we want. We're going to make a deferred revenue journal entry. And then I can go down to my Stripe account. I want my balance transactions. And let's go to our Amalgam Sandbox account. Similarly, you see how that loaded, gray cells on the left. And I don't know, let's just run a month. Maybe we'll run for the month of September. We can do that. And we'll do 9/30/2025. And I just hit run report and it should spit out my data. There you go. No logging into Stripe or having to jockey through that. And you can see we've got information here. We've got our payouts, which is the cash that comes out of the account, and then charges. That's the stuff that are the individual like charges or transactions to clients or customers, whatever you have. So that's all flowing through. We also, what I think is really important is have these 10 columns over to the left that you're able to edit, use, do any kind of formulas you want. So I can write, don't forget to check Joe, right? I can write stuff like this, or I can do simple formulas if I wanted to, or complex formulas, whatever you want. If I wanted to just sum the two of them up, I've got that here too. And then every time I run this report, I change the dates, I use it as a template. I don't lose that formula. So it's really helpful when I want to use repeatable templates, which I can show you an example of in a little bit. All right, so we have our data, exciting. Now I want to send that into QuickBooks. I want to create my deferred general entry for September. So I'm going to hit the plus sign here. And I'm going to select two-way sync this time. And we're going to use the ABC widgets account again. So you can see fewer. These are just my GLs. I'm not writing data to Stripe, right? I don't want to get confused there, but my GL I want to write to. I can update chart of accounts. I can create customers. I can edit vendors, the non-financial stuff. But I can also do financial information. If I want to load years worth of bank loads, if I want to create deposits, expenses, but also invoices and journal entries, which are probably the most frequently used. So let's create journal entry. And I'll ABC widgets again. And we'll create a new template. So we're now on our third tab. We have the P&L tab, we have the Stripe data, and we have our journal entries. And you can see it looks similar. We've got these gray area to the left, a couple new columns we'll talk about, and then you can see the kind of formatted section here. And now I just add a date. Whoops. If I add a date, let's do today's date. We'll do 10/15. Let's close it. And you can see it's starting to populate. And then I can select accounts, right? These are all the accounts within QuickBooks. So I can't accidentally create an account like Joe's account. Don't do it, right? If I do that, it's gonna reject that. So it's great, right? We've got those checks and balances where I can't create the wrong data set. In my description here, so open demo test JE, we've got this here. And then if I wanted to add like things like customer, vendor, location, class, I can do that as well. So we can make this the corporate class. We'll do a little test. Let's go back over here. We got nothing in services, right? So let's load it to services and then we can rerun the report and see it change. Services, there we go. Okay, so we're starting to set it up. Let's do our accounts. We'll do product sales, great. We have some fees. The Stripe has fees, so we'll get like commissions, fees account we've got. And then the rest will go to deferred revenue. And it can be as easy, I just hit sum here, get my Stripe, and I'll sum up my fees. Great. I can't use the same thing for product sales because this includes those payouts, right? So I'll actually just do a little bit of a formula in this field. Let's do if This equals payout. We want to make it 0. If it's not, we're going to pull that gross amount. So first one's 0, which good. That means it's working. Great. Now you can see we don't have the payout. So these should all be positive amounts now. Now I can sum that up too. Sum there. And then we will do the difference. Here we go. And so now I've got my deferred revenue. I've got it all set up. We're going to look at services. I've got status is new, so it recognizes it as a new one, and the action is upload. And I just want to make it clear that we can load any sort of any number of journal entries here. So I can have 2. You can see it's denoted. The colors are a little different, even if the amounts are same. It can be $100. And this is $5 there. We've got 2 journal entries. And it's ready. It says new, it says upload. All I have to do is hit the sync button and it will write it to QuickBooks. So let's do it. Hit sync. It'll do its checks and balances, things to that nature. And there we go. We've just uploaded that journal entry. Now, let's check it. We've got our P&L here. We've loaded it to services. And we've got our date range, right? So if I hit run report, it should see this pop up there. There you go. There's our 3.7 million that we just loaded. So yeah, that journal entry went into QuickBooks, loaded it, and we're able to check it. So that's a little bit of a rundown of sort of creating a little bit of a journal entry there using Amalgam. I have a tendency to ramble, so I'm going to pause. I'm going to take a drink of water, and we'll field any questions you have, whether written or verbal. Just doing such a good job motoring through. Cool. So this is just me creating this from scratch to kind of illustrate how it works, the mechanics of it. But in practice, it's going to work a little bit differently because what you're going to do is you're probably going to have like templates that you're working with your team. So like we just did a deferred revenue. Let me see if we have a deferred revenue schedule I can show you. So here would be a schedule here where we've got a few different tabs. And so here's like a little bit of a cover, and the idea is I would have this maybe from last month. I would come in, I would update the dates, and then rerun this. So I've got my cover, got some good instructions, and then I come to my invoices. Let's say I'm just downloading raw data here, or maybe my client just gives me a CSV every month that I need to convert. But I've got my raw data, the dates are linked, and then I have a schedule. So this is taking those invoices and it's amortizing them out. Great, so you can see them kind of going out month over month. And then I have my journal entry set up. So this is then pulling information. So that's the date linked in. And then that's the amounts for the services and deferred revenue. You can see when I'm moving things out of revenue into deferred, and then I'm recognizing that that by month. And so that 82 is somewhere over here. Right, there's the 82 that we're looking at for March. That's the amount of revenue to recognize. And then the same thing, if we can change the date to February, and we should see it change. So 82 and 451, if we come here and we do, let's do 228, or that was 29. So leap year. And then that should change it. There you go. So now that's 427. It was 451, and this is 439. And that's the idea, that every month you can come in here, update the dates, rerun a report, and then I can load this just the way I loaded the last one right into my QuickBooks. Obviously a significant savings in time by not having to jockey through that data, not having to navigate and manually create journal entries in QuickBooks and things like that.
Joe, I think it'd be helpful if you talk about once you upload it, if you need to change it, if you need to edit it, what happens if somebody edits it in QuickBooks after the journal entry is done? Kind of walk through that process.
Yeah, Kara, that's great. So one of the beauties here is that you're using your own credentials, right? So like, let's say you and I are working on something, Kara, and I create a journal entry here, this journal entry, I create that using Amalgam. If you went into QuickBooks, you would find that journal entry and you could go through the audit log and it would say, Joe at whatever it was, 3:19 p.m. Eastern time created that journal entry. So you have that there. The other thing would happen is if you go and you update the journal entry and then I download it, I will get your update. So basically it would say, hey, Joe created it, Kara updated it, and then when we look at it again or it downloaded again, it would pull in from your it would pull in your update as well. So it's kind of, it's not a live feed in terms of this, like this is stagnant, but if I went through and I said, 10, 15, 20, 25 here, I'll do my date, I'll download these, and these journal entries will populate the same way. So if any edits you would have made would be reflected here and there.
Yeah, so I thought it was really helpful. You accidentally key something, you sync it, you can go back, edit it, re-upload it again.
Yeah.
And that download piece was the piece I was missing, because if I went in and kind of tested it and changed it in QuickBooks, and it gave me a message here that said that I couldn't change it, which I thought was like a good security
measure. So that's a great one. Like if you and I are working on the same thing at the same time, it'll make sure that it doesn't overwrite. Like it'll say, hey, Kara's working on this while you're working on it. One of you needs to stop, basically.
Yeah, or like I'm reviewing, right? I'm reviewing somebody's work. They go back in to change something, but I've already changed it. At least if I understood the way it worked, then it kind of locks it in QuickBooks, because I can't re-edit it here once I've edited it in QuickBooks. So it sounds like I still can edit it. I just have to download it and then I make the edit from there.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought that was a good like security measure, because again, communication, I'm not good at communicating because I'm on the fly reviewing something to get it out to a client. I change it. Somebody realizes they need to go back and change something. If I liked it. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that's how it works. I
that's
learned
great.
that. I thought it was good.
No, thank you. And there are two other things I'll mention. One is above the date, we're sort of hiding a couple columns, and this is the transaction ID within QuickBooks. So you can search it by that specific ID if you needed, and that's sort of tracing. And then, if I needed to edit this, I can make this, $120, right? And then this will be $115, and that's been edited. Or I can say we want to delete this and delete that. So if I hit sync, it'll update this and it will delete that. So let's do it. We sync it and we'll do that. So we're able to edit it from here. But your points are great, Kara. Thanks for bringing those up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I saw a couple questions here. Yeah, Timothy, there's a lot of apps that might not be supported currently by Amalgam. We're adding new stuff all the time. So happy to have a conversation about hearing what those are, prioritizing them, seeing what we can do and sort of help out there. But mostly our kind of product roadmap is just adding new connections that we don't have already. Those are primarily from folks like you who are saying, hey, this would be a helpful tool for me. And then James got a note from you. Yep. No, I think the note, sure thing, Timothy. James, you're right on Xero. So we're actively actually building that out further. It's a little bit more of a clunky sort of connection. But as you guys are using it, the same thing goes that I said for Timothy. If you have use cases for Xero, or you're seeing a report is doing something that you wanted to do differently, send that feedback to me. That's perfect for us to layer right back into the product. So we don't have 31 options on Xero reporting right now. And I think some of them might be superfluous anyway, but you're right on. And just share the kind of additional desires and things like that you might want, whether it's Xero or Sage Intacct or NetSuite or the other tools that we have. Great, thanks, James. So when I showed you the deck in the beginning here, I kind of mentioned these three things. So we kind of talked about reporting a little bit. I'll show you a very quick example of a reporting package here. So this might be an example of a dashboard that you might create for clients, right? And all of this data is actually sourced just from the raw file. So here's an example. Here's a QuickBooks Online P&L download. All of this is just feeding these more formatted reports. So really great for that. If you've got your books are closed, you open up last month's version here, you hit run all your reports and it updates everything for you. So that's an example of reporting. We talked, at pretty big depth about monthly closes. So talking about your schedules for deferred revenue or depreciation or prepaids or whatever it may be, sending invoices and things to that nature. And then the last of the three buckets here is around rebuilding the book. So it could be like what we were talking about with downloading journal entries and editing them, but also have this, my favorite tool is aptly named the transaction reclassifier. So here, I'll click on this transaction reclassifier. It's not cleverly named, but it's a pretty effective tool at doing exactly what it says. And so really what you're able to do is you're able to download transactions across the board, filter if you want smaller things to that nature, but able to download across the board and edit them as you want. So let's pull down the first month of this year. Whoops. 5, and I can filter if I want a particular account or a vendor, customer, whatever, but let's just download the month of January. And it takes a second just because the way QuickBooks is set up, it's pulling from different data tables. But you'll see it start to populate here. We get bills, we get expenses, invoices, journal entries, and then I'm able to basically edit all of these different fields as I needed. So let's say the customer isn't Duff Beer, or that's not the right description, or the account is off. I can edit that and it will it'll update for me. So this is actually not equipment rental, it's purchase software. I'll update those. This is not Duff Beer, it's Cyberdyne, so I can update with Cyberdyne. And you can see it getting edited on the left. It notices it's edited and then suggests upload. Let's say the descriptions should be expense loaded. There we go, we've got that updated. Whether it's accounts and things to that nature too. Let's make this top secret thing just payroll expenses. So I can go through and edit these in bulk. I can do the same for classes. Let's say down here that all of these should be our sales class. So get those all edited. And you can go through just like masses of data. So if you get really messy books from a client, or you have to like your client says, hey, I want classes now, and you have to like put classes to every one of your transactions. This is a super efficient way to be able to do that. Just go through, make the edits, hit the sync button, and it will update those existing transactions right in QuickBooks for you. So one of my favorite kind of tools in that sense. I really like doing that one, and yeah, it gives you a little bit of a perspective on kind of how we're able to do it. I know some of you are users already, but just a couple of resources I want to share with you. One is, if we go to our website, there's a couple things to note here. One is you can just start a free trial all the time by just clicking up here. I'll also drop the link right into the chat for us. I'll send a follow-up for everyone as well. As we said, we're recording this. But within our website, you can see what other integrations we have if you're looking at the different systems you're using. But my favorite part is the templates page. It's perhaps my favorite because I built most of it, but so there's maybe a little pride and ownership here, but you can see some of the templates I talked about, like the deferred revenue ones here. I can click see that template. Yours truly has a video instructions on what the template does. You can download it in Excel or Google Sheets and use it for you. And so all of these types of things here. So if you want to reallocate expenses, you have to consolidate entities. There's a lot of different templates that have been built out. And yeah, you can just download it and repurpose it for your use. Looking at the elements here, it's really easy to change, let's say, clients. So I've got this journal entry for ABC widgets. Let's say this was a template we created. I can hit the relink button, and I can say I don't want it to be this. I want it to be Amalgam now. So it's going to go from ABC widgets, and we'll change it up. Let's see, it just takes a second to realign. And then we'll see, there you go. See the top name here, Amalgam. I can use the same template now, connected to Amalgam. It's connected to Amalgam right here. So that's a really effective thing for when you have to reuse templates and things like that. Or if we're going to, let's say, use this template again for another month, just hit the reset button, and you'll see that they unlink. So got an invalid there. I'll have to look at that, but you guys kind of get the idea of what we're talking about. So yeah, that's kind of my rundown. I wanted to cover most of this stuff. Juan, I've got a note from you. Question about Shopify. Does it do the payout report well? So let's look at Shopify. We have a few different reports. The Shopify, we have the payments and payouts reports might be what you're referring to. So you're able to say, what are the payments that are coming in, and then what is going to your bank account. I think that's probably a big reconciliation for you. I know when I used to do that work, the clearing accounts were my biggest headache every month, where how am I reconciling those? So that's a good report for you. And then I usually use, like, when I'm booking revenue, sales, COGS kind of stuff, the order details is good because it's all the detail. And since you're not having to jockey around with the CSV, who kind of cares how much data you're going to pull down? Pull down 2 months at a time if you want. Who cares? It's all kind of there for you. So I think that is something. Feel free to take a look at it and let me know if that kind of sets up right for you. And same thing with Stripe. We have a similar payments and payouts for Stripe. I mean, I sort of showed you one there, but there's a more detailed one. Here's the payouts. And then the payout mapping is one that we created recently, where you're able to see the individual customer payments and then how those payments rolled into the payouts that go into your bank account. So a similar functionality there.
Can you walk through the process of uploading bank transactions or credit card transactions?
Yeah, let's do it. So two-way sync. And then, so here, bank upload. So I'll create a new tab here.
And you do bank and credit card in that tab, right?
Yep, you can do them. You can do them in one. I mean, generally when I do this, I usually do one account at a time, just so my brain doesn't hurt. But you can do multiple accounts at a time. And so there's not really a download functionality for this one. But let's say, and you can do the same thing. Let's do a download. I'm going to show you. Pull a bank account here. So Plaid. Bank transactions, I will choose, let's say, this Visa card. And I'll just put in whatever, 5, go through today. I'm gonna run that report. It should pull down bank transactions. So this might be one for you where you can pull down or have a download of a bunch of stuff. And then I can link it here. So I'm gonna choose my bank account. It's going to be my credit cards. But then also, Kara, I can say I want it to be my checking account. Right, I can mix it up if I want. My account type, right, is what I'm choosing. So we're going to choose credit card for these, and then this is going to be my checking, and then we're going to go back to card, and then the date. But in this case, I can just link it here. So let's do the date. Here we go. We've got our date, the amounts. This, in this case, positive is going to be an expense, money out. Description, I can pull the description too. Here we go. And then category account. So I can do this manually, or you can set up some sort of mapping, but Adobe would be some sort of software, right? Software apps. This is going to be meals, say meals with clients, And then this might be just like software again. This is going to be software and apps. And then this last one is going to be travel. Looks like I booked a flight. And so this will just be airfare. There you go. And then I can select vendors that I want here as well. And so whatever they are, I just made up a bunch of baseball names here. So bear with me, but let's just say whatever you want to call them. They're all throughout.
And the category has to be populated, right?
Yeah. So the asterisk here is going to denote that. I could load it without a description. You guys know that, right? I can load a transaction to my books without a vendor and a description, but I can't load it without putting it into an account. I can't load it without an amount and so on.
So you could equivalently, like you were saying, kind of setting up templates. It's doing the work ahead of time, but you could set up templates, sort of like rules, and then have it pre-populate that way.
Yep, exactly. And then this is also really helpful. Let's say you have to go back and do a couple years worth of transactions at once. That's the same thing where that's pretty helpful where if I need to, if I can't like get the feed doesn't go into QuickBooks or whatever, I just have like a huge set of data, I can use this. And remember, this isn't booking it. This is not sending it to the bank feed. This is sending it to the books. So then I can theoretically hit sync and all these transactions are categorized, and then I can go do my bank recs just as I normally would. I can skip the bank feed entirely.
Yeah, I like that you could skip the stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, and hey, if you have like Chase or something like that, or Wells Fargo, maybe you don't need it. But if you have like your client has like some sort of credit union or something like that, yeah, like this can be a really helpful tool.
While you're on that same topic, this does not have the capability of transforming a PDF into an Excel, correct?
Yeah, no, we don't. The idea here would be we'd be getting that data, so you wouldn't need the PDF, right? Like this is effectively your statement data. Now the challenge is if you're getting a PDF from your client or something, what you do with that. I know there are some tools on the market that do that, but if you want to hit me separately, I'm happy to share some things on that side.
Yeah, and we use Data Snipper, so it would just be data snipping it, and then we could put it in a tab and then pull from there.
Yeah, which may be something we should talk to those guys. Imagine if we kind of integrated with them. I think that could be a pretty powerful sort of team.
Yeah, because this is pretty, I mean, it's awesome. We were just talking about earlier with Kara, the ability that we use another software way back when to input years of data, but it was going to the actual dashboard, which was it was efficient because it was years of data that we needed to import, but I still had to go manually and recording it, and it was just hitting the dashboard, which was a little bit painful, which is this one actually cuts that step. So
yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you for going over that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for the questions. These are really good. And I kind of can get into cruise control here because I've done this a few times. So this is helpful disruption.
Hey, Joe, you had, I think, a template that showed a 13-week rolling cash flow.
Yeah.
Could you talk us through that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So let me open that guy up. So I've got this cash flow. It's not much of a cover page here, but I'm basically just establishing our core date. And then I've got these different tabs that are flowing data into this projection tab here. So this is kind of, if you think about it, this is my current week, March 25th, what I had here, March 25th. And then I've got kind of the last 4 weeks here. And this is something we used a lot at Calculate, where we'd book the transactions in QuickBooks, and then we'd populate one of these, usually in Google Sheets, and then share it with our client for our kind of weekly cash meetings. So we can see kind of how things played out over the last month or longer if you want. I've got my current week here, and then I have my projections. Now, where's this data coming from? This historical data is just coming from a GL tab. So I'm just pulling the GL here for the last however many weeks. So from today's date, in this case, the 25th of March, for the last month or so. And that's what's enabling you to populate that. It's just pulling that out. In terms of this, we've got the raw data, which is the report, and then I just have some mapping here of okay, well, I have to roll it up to a week, right? So I'm just normalizing the weeks, so on and so forth. But then also, if I look at my invoices, I know what should be coming in the next however many weeks because I've sent AR, right? Theoretically, this business. So I have an AR tab. This is your AR report. It pulls the data down from that. And then I just normalize it in terms of the week using those 10 columns to the left that are freeform. And then the amount I'm going to pay and kind of when it expects to get paid. So for instance, if we look at 4/1, we have, okay, this is 7 there, 78. Those two equal 16,860. If I look here, there's my 16,860. That's the amount I expect to come in. And then I also have another row here. If I said, okay, well, there's something that wasn't invoiced, but I expect to get paid $5,000 this week, I can put that in there too. And same thing goes for bills paid. Let's see the 4250 there for April 1st. AP report looks very similar, right? It's almost the same exact columns. And then there's my 4250. Actually, that's the wrong week. Here's my April 1st 4250. That's flowing through on it. So I'm able to take what I know, right, this kind of stuff, and then project it into it. And then the third bucket is just the other stuff that maybe we don't have. I don't have an AP report that tells me how much payroll I'm going to pay. So I created this little projections tab, and you can group this however you want, super customizable. But what I do is I actually have the date dynamically calculated. And then I say, well, I know payroll is going to be $5,500 every 2 weeks or twice a month. And I've got that calculated out here, just kind of rent utilities once a month on the 28th. We pay rent. It's $39.50. And then that's what's populating through here. So there's my $5,500. There's my $39.50 in the last week of the month. You're able to see those. Now, what I like about this is every week I'm going to update this, right? So the next week I'm going to come in, or maybe 4 weeks later. So let's just add plus 28 days, right? So that should be, that'll be the 22nd of April. My little projection tool here now has the dates for April. So I never actually have to come in and update this. I can come and check on it, and edit it as I need, but now I've got April. So I always have kind of a rolling 13 weeks of data here, so that it's not like every week I have to manually input it or copy over the months in that sense. So we go back to 3/25/2025, like that. We've got, oh, what was the date? 3/24. Oh no, it was 2024, right? There you go. Now it's repopulated. We've got our amounts here for our payroll and for our rent and stuff like that. So that's just a little bit of a rundown. Again, this is one way to do it, right? You can customize it, and one of the beauties here is you can just download this template. This is on the website too, in that templates page, and then you can customize it in the way you'd like.
Okay, so that the AR detail, that's a straight integration from QuickBooks then.
Yep, this is just the AR aging report from like Amalgam connected to QuickBooks. Yep.
Okay, and so then if you've invoiced a client and they're on 30-day terms, but you know that customer pays in 45 days, you could change that weekly lookup to be when you actually think they're going to pay it.
Yep, exactly. I have this little formula here. This is totally made up, it's mine, but to Adam, to show you kind of what you can do is I basically say if something's very overdue, I'm not if something was due on February 1st and it's March 25th, I'm not expecting that necessarily to get paid that day, right? It's already almost 2 months over. I have a little formula that says, hey, well, we're going to expect to have to wait to get that paid, right? I don't want to overestimate. And the same thing for you is I can have a little lookup that I know, oh, Hunt always pays 45 days late. So I just add 45 days to that or something like that. This is where you get into the nuance of your clients, right? More than you ever wanted to know about someone else's company's AR.
That's great. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions, thoughts from the group? I think I was on the website showing you something. We had here, I had the templates. If you're ready to start your trial, just go ahead, click, start free trial. It'll take you into enter your information, and I'm here and very much able to offer any kind of additional support, whether it be like formatting with your projection tool or looking at Amalgam, or just looking to get started for the first time. Very much happy to do kind of one-on-one sessions. So yeah, unless there's any other questions, I really appreciate everyone coming. I'll kill the recording now and I'll distribute that as well.